and welcome back to Desert DIY. If you are new here, my name is Corey. Today I'm going to be flipping an entire vignette of random things that I've got from thrift stores, from estate sales for free on the side of the road, you name it, and I hope that you like how amazing these transformations are. Some of it was really rough to begin with, which if you've been watching my channel for a while, you know that I love flipping the ugliest pieces possible and turning them into something beautiful. I actually have a challenge that I do on my channel called the Ugly Duckling Challenge, where I challenge other YouTubers to do this as well, and I'll be having a new one coming this spring. But hey, let's get started making some beautiful stuff. Let's start with the biggest of all these pieces. This sofa table I got from an auction. I think I paid $6 for it, plus tax, plus buyer's premium. So around $10 for this table. And I had not previewed it and did not know that it had that big old gash on the top. But otherwise, it was in pretty good condition. And it was mostly solid wood from what I can tell, which is something I definitely look for when flipping older things. I don't really like to mess with the fake wood stuff. My husband came out and sanded it. We're just doing a scuff sand on here because I do intend to paint it. I'm not trying to restain this because it seems like it's a really thin veneer, especially on the top, and it has a lot of really interesting round edges that would be extremely difficult to strip and sand. So we are going to just paint that, and this is one of those reasons that I make executive decisions to paint things. My husband's using our Surf Prep sander right now with a padded attachment on there, and that helps to sand on the curved edges. I am sorry my voice is so terrible today. We are still recovering from having RSV, so it's been a long time that we've had it, and I think we're going on 2.5 weeks now. It's terrible stuff. I'm hoping that we'll start to get better pretty soon. But in the meantime, bear with me with my frog voice that I have. But he's just scuff sanding as well. We're using a 180 grit. Something that I've learned over the years is that 220 grit is actually the grit you use if you intend to stain something, or if you are done with a piece and you're just doing a light sanding at the end. Because paint does not stick well to 220 grit. So when you're going to paint something, try to use 180 grit for your scuff sanding. That will actually help your paint stick a lot better. Now, these handles were on here in a weird clamped way. It had like plugs, and then the backside of the handles was clamped on there with a piece of metal. I really hate those, and I'm so thankful for my husband because they're really hard for me to do. My hands are really weak, so he gets in there and removes all those for me. And then he also sanded the fronts nice and flat. We're obviously not going to be reusing those handles for this. In fact, I have some really adorable handles that are going to go on this piece, and it's very my style. I think you're really going to like them. I got them from Hobby Lobby. And of course, I get them only when they're 50% off because, I mean, why wouldn't you? So now he's just wiping off all the dust before he starts painting it. And the paint that I love to use when flipping pieces that are going to need to be really durable, I figure an entryway table or sofa table needs to be pretty dang durable because you're going to be dropping keys on there or drinks, or who even knows what's going to go on an entryway table. But I love using Rust-Oleum's enamel paints. Enamel paint in general is way more durable than anything else. This is the one that we're using, which is a spruce green color by Rust-Oleum. And yes, they have different pretty colors in their enamel spray paint. Enamel paint is easier to spray than it is to brush or roll on because it gets tacky really quickly. Another thing that you need to know when you're working with doing anything with enamel paints is that there's very strict instructions on the bottles as far as doing a second coat. Also, here in Houston, Texas, it's really humid, so we did get some drips here, and I'm going to hand sand those right now to get rid of those so that I can do my next coat, which I do from the top down. I always start my pieces upside down, and then I do the second coat from the top down. I feel like this gives the best coverage. That way, your whole underneath side is painted, your piece looks more finished, and if you didn't know, if you're new here to this channel, I actually resell in a booth most of the things that I do here on my channel. And my husband has officially quit his regular job and is now working with me and going to school full-time. So he's going to college full-time to get his degree in computer science. I'm using some wood filler right here. I like this kind because it's pink when it's wet and it dries like a tan white color. To let you know that it's dry. And here it's with the humidity, like I said, I want to know when something's actually dry. If it were still a little bit wet, it would gum all up in my sandpaper. So I'm just trying to fix that spot there that had some maybe water damage. I'm not really sure what was going on there. But anyway, the specific instructions that are on spray paint, enamel paints, is that you have to do the second coat within 30 minutes of the first coat or wait 72 hours. It may sound weird, but let me tell you, if you don't follow those instructions, it will ruin your finish. I'll show you in a future video how it will ruin it because I have done that before and I actually recorded it. But now I'm going to add some extra character to this piece. It was looking like real shiny and a little too new. I wanted it to have more character than it was having. So I taped on some grain sack stripes and I'm doing clear coat right now over my tape to make sure that the paint I'm going to do does not run under my tape. I know that you know that I hate paint tape, but in this case, it's going to create a really cool design, so it's necessary, and you have to do the clear coat thing or your paint will run, I guarantee you. So now I am just doing a coat of slick stick to make sure that it's going to stick really well when I put my paint on here, and then I go over it with an antique white color that I think will help make this piece look a little more vintage, little more cottagey, little more just cozy looking. I didn't want it to be a stark white. It would have looked really weird and out of place. But once that is all done, here's that super satisfying tape pull. You see how there is no bleeding whatsoever. Sorry, my back is in the way. But you see how that clear coat, when you do the clear coat first, it makes it so that any little spots on your tape where the paint would have run was filled in with that clear. So now you can go over it with your paint and it won't drip and run into any of the spots that'll make your lines look all messed up. Look at how great it is. How do you guys like grain sack stripe stuff? So I know it's kind of a farmhouse thing and people are saying farmhouse is not cool anymore, which it still sells like crazy, let me tell you. But what do you think about the grain sack stripe? Let me know in the comments down below. But now I'm distressing the entire piece. I'm even using my keys to help distress it a little bit. And I wanted to do this just because, like I was saying, I want the piece to have a little more character. I don't want it to look brand new. Nothing in my booth is brand new. And I feel like when things are distressed just a little bit, you aren't as afraid to hurt it. Like, you can use it without worrying at home, like, oh gosh, I'm so scared I'm going to scratch it or something like that. It looks a little bit lived in already, so you can use it without any stress. And I'm using gator hide for my clear coat because, like I was saying earlier, you want to make sure you have a durable finish on something that's like a sofa table, and do 2 to 3 coats at least. These are the handles that I was telling you about. I believe they're normally like $9.99, so I got them half off, around $5. And they are looking really pretty on here. I asked my husband to put them up a little bit higher than center just because I thought that that would look better once the drawer is actually in, and it was where the other holes were originally too, so I thought that that made it easier for him to align it and make it nice and straight when he drills his holes. I know there's like little jigs that you can use to perfectly drill the perfect size for different handles. We just haven't bought one yet. One day we'll invest in that. But I think that these are the perfect color to go with that antique white grain sack stripe that I did on the top. And I ended up asking $80 for this, which some people might think that's a lot of money. Some people might think that's like hardly anything for resale. But for me, that was what was fair for the amount of work that we put into it and the amount of money that we spent actually making this thing. So we used a couple cans of those spray paints and different paints, clear coats, and the 3 different knobs that we put on there. And so to me, I have to get at least double what I'm paying for it. So that is what I sold it for. It has already sold. This was it staged in my booth, and it is in its new home. I hope that it's having it happy ever after. The next thing I want to show you what I did is actually turn these vintage glasswares into candles. I have seen a lot of people turning cool glass things and even wood things into candles. I got this whole candle making kit on Amazon. I will try and link it for you in my Amazon store down below in my description box, but it has literally everything you're going to need to make an unscented candle in there. Everything. You don't need to get anything else. So it has every single part that you're going to need in order to make your candles. And that was important for me because I didn't want to have to keep looking for stuff at different stores or whatever. I just wanted the whole kit done and make this project much easier. Plus, I thought it would make it easier for you all if you wanted to retry this at home. So I just scooped up some of the soy candle wax and put it in that little metal thing, and I put my stove on low. Now I'm just taking the little wicks and putting one in each cup. It actually comes with little double-sided stickers that you can use so that you don't have to glue down the wicks, which was amazing. I didn't even realize that came with it, and I had my glue gun ready and everything until I saw those when I opened the box, and I was like, oh my gosh, this box really does have everything in it. But I just stick those down centered on where the stem is on the bottom of the glass. That way I know it's definitely centered on there. And then it has these little popsicle sticks. Can you see them there on the left side of the screen? Those are going to be guides to where you can keep your wick where you need it to be to stay centered. Another thing you need to think about when you're doing this is that as you're melting your candle wax on low, you need to just stir it a lot. Stir it, stir it, stir it, stir it, stir it. It comes in these little pellets, and if you let it melt without stirring it, the pellets can turn into really big chunks, which I learned by trial and error here making this video. And once it's in a big chunk, it takes forever to melt. So stir it, stir it, stir it as much as you possibly can as it's melting, and it will all melt nice and even. And see how some of it's kind of getting into bigger chunks. That took so much longer to melt because I was doing the wicks and filming and everything, but this is how it should look when you're getting ready to pour it. Another thing is if you're adding scent, which I got this scent off Amazon. And it's so funny. The scents that I bought, what they're called, don't smell anything. Like this one's called Bay Rum, but it doesn't smell like rum. It smells like clove and like pine. It's a like very nice smell. I like it, but it doesn't smell like Bay Rum. That's so funny. I used the entire bottle to make these 6 candles. You have to use tons of essential oils in order to get a scent into a candle. And when you're mixing it into your wax, you want to make sure that your wax has cooled down quite a bit. Not enough to start like getting a film on the top, but you want it to be to where it's pretty cooled off. Now I'm done. I let them sit without messing with them. That's really the trick to make sure nothing weird happens to how they end up looking. And then I'm just trimming off all the excess wick length that I don't need, which was the most satisfying part of this entire project. They smelled really good. It was still a pretty mild smell. I thought it would be a little bit stronger than it was, but you really have to use a ton of scent in a candle, which is a little bit scary to think of. Here they are on a shelf in a hutch in my booth right now. I've actually already sold 2 of them, and I'm selling them for $9.95 a piece because candle wax is pretty expensive, plus the cost of the actual glassware itself. Now I'm going to work on this really beat up frame. There is no nice way to put that. This thing has seen some stuff. And I already cleaned it actually. So this is what it looks like cleaned. It's just old. And the first thing I need to do is make sure it's structurally sound. So I'm going to use my Star Bond glue, my super glue, to get those corners nice and tight. And I just spray my glue accelerator on there. Then I put the glue in, and then I spray it again with the accelerator as I'm squeezing that corner shut. And it dries pretty much instantly. So I have this sped up only twice as fast as real life, just because it's kind of boring to watch somebody glue something in real time. But that's how fast it is. And it's really strong stuff. So I'll link them down below if you guys are interested in trying out that super glue. I've been using it for years. And I did the same thing on the other corner that was separating, and it was so quick and easy to do. I didn't have to get my staple gun out or anything like that. Plus, I feel like when you staple these corners, the back side stays tight, but then the front side stays open. So I feel like super glue was definitely the right method. And this one, it took a little bit longer. It was a bigger gap, so I held it tighter just a little bit longer to make sure that it wasn't going to separate. I painted it in the same antique white that I had painted those grain sack stripes on the green sofa table or entryway table. What would you call that? Would you call that a sofa table, a console table, or an entryway table? I feel like there's really no wrong answer, but I would like to hear what you call it, and maybe write where you're from as well, because I wonder if that has something to do with it. But I wanted to do the entire frame with just one quick coat of this white so that the age could kind of show through White tends to need several coats to be fully like opaque, but I wanted the age to show through a little bit. I loved all the cracks and everything. And then this print I bought for like $20 at an antique mall here in Houston. And usually I wouldn't spend $20 on a piece of paper, but this was just so beautiful. It's a painting of a weeping willow. It's just a print of a painting, I should say. But it was, I think, from like the 1800s. And it looks gorgeous. And it actually looks a lot like some of the places here in Houston, Texas that are just absolutely stunning as far as how green and beautiful these trees are. And we all have that moss that's hanging Spanish moss. We have a lot of that here as well. And this reminded me so much of that. And I think it's gorgeous. It's just a classic painting. And the green, the blue, everything in there is all the colors that I'm using to decorate my house. So this piece I'm actually keeping. If I were to resell it, I feel like I wouldn't really make enough of a profit since I spent $20 on the print. So it's definitely not something I would do for resale unless you live somewhere where you can sell something like this for a lot of money. But here I would have barely been able to ask $20 for it when I was done. But here it is, completely finished. I love how it looks like it has a mat in there, but it's not. It's just a white paper with that antique white trim around it. Now I'm going to work on this lamp. This lamp is super cool as it is. It just had an ugly shade. So I took that shade off, checked out what shades I already had, and then decided on using this really plain white one just because I feel like there's a lot of detail going on the lamp. And this is the weirdest light bulb I've ever seen. It's an IKEA light bulb. And I've never seen one like that. Super weird. But I'm going to reuse it because it's going in my shop. And I never put lamps in my shop unless they're actually with light bulbs and able to turn on. I want people to know that they work. And also, it adds ambiance to my booth if things are staged with lots of lamps around. It feels more like a home. And I got this lampshade on clearance. It was around $7. And it looks really great. Here it is inside the booth. I put a little bit of sticky putty to hold the lampshade nice and tight on there. And also, this lamp has a secret compartment in there. So the top half of the lamp, like the lid of the jar, I guess, opens up and it has a full-blown like secret hiding spot in there. So I put that on a little note so that way my customers would know that. And also it helps because if they lifted it, that top would come apart and they'd be like, oh my gosh, I broke the lamp. Thank you so much for watching today. If you liked what you saw, don't forget to hit subscribe and I'll see you next time. Bye!